to have our guest here on the telephone line. I welcome to the program American vocalist, songwriter, who in 1981 released the smash hit song, which many of you will remember, Key Largo. I welcome in Trop rock star Bertie Higgins. Bertie, Brian C., thanks for being on.
Good morning, Mr. B. How are things going for you guys?
Everything's well. I appreciate your time today. And Bertie, I started thinking that in your music career, which is close to 6 decades now, you must have written several hundred songs, but I'm guessing about 1/3 of those songs have been recorded. However, with this Time Life collaboration, that's changed, right? Talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, well, what's neat about the Time Life thing is international streaming. The only 2 countries that are left out are North Korea and Iraq, I believe. Yeah, it enables people that have not purchased all the albums to listen to songs they've never heard. And that is a good thing for me. I've written a couple 150 songs, so it's been a busy career.
And like I said, close to 6 decades now. And, that legendary song that you did, Key Largo, remains your career song. Although, for those listening, you got to remember Casablanca and the album Just Another Day in Paradise also did very well in your career, right?
Yeah, well, see, I spent a lot of time in the Pacific Rim countries. For instance, I was in China 8 times in 2019. And that is, Casablanca is a huge song in all those countries over there. And it amazes me, and I don't know why. It just happened. That's all there. In this business, it's hard to predict what's going to happen, but things happen that surprise you.
Yeah, and that Key Largo song, I believe it was put out in 1982? It was released, and in 83 it became a hit?
Yeah, it took a while. But my publisher in Atlanta, I recall playing it for him originally sitting on his desk with an old Martin guitar. And he weighed about 400 pounds. He got him started dancing. He says, "Lad, if this son of a gun ever gets legs, it'll live forever." And it has certainly gotten legs. It's amazing. It was my first single record. It went straight on up.
And Bertie, when that song came out, if you could go back to the early 80s, how did you handle the fame back then? You were a mega star when that song came out.
Yeah, well, it was difficult to begin with. I was a little frightened because of the suddenness of it all. And then the money began pouring in. I went, "This is great." So it was difficult in the beginning, but I got used to it pretty quickly.
And now you've been singing that song forever. Do you ever get just me listening to that song and probably so many others? I become very emotional. Do you still get emotionally? Does it hit your soul still when you're singing it live?
Sure. It's my favorite song in the set, and people seem to love it. I've written some songs that I don't like. One was Tokyo Joe. I was on this Bogart thing, which I love Humphrey Bogart, but I will not play that song, listen to it, or do anything because it's my least favorite song. I got an email about a month ago saying, "Thank you so much for writing Tokyo Joe. It changed my life." And I'm going, what are these people listening to? So you never know where something's going to end up. That's why you got to be careful and always give it your best shot. Because, a lot of things have happened. Like I produced 4 feature films. My son directed all 4. And guy calls me from China saying, "Hey, man, I heard Christmas in Hollywood on a flight from L.A. to Beijing." So they're playing that stuff all over the world, and it's really nice. Really nice. And I'm on my 28th album right now. And I'm working on new material for that album. And I didn't do a lot of... I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
I didn't do a lot of writing during the pandemic. I don't know why, I simply dried up. I got tired of saying, "I love you, and this is why." So I was going to say, write a song called "Hate Your Guts," but I never did. That's a joke. Yep.
So you mentioned acting. Now I've read that you were a protege of Burt Reynolds. How did you get to meet Burt?
Well, actually, his brother was his driver, Jim Reynolds, and they were shooting a film in Atlanta. And he'd pick him up every morning, and I had a demo and cassette of the songs on the new album, just me and a guitar. And he made Burt listen to it every morning. So they got in touch with me about writing a song for B.L. Stryker, the ABC Mystery Movie of the Week that Burt had a starring role in that. And I started writing, and then I met Burt down in Jupiter, Florida, where they were doing some filming also. And he wanted to co-write a song with me. So in co-writing, he gave me the idea, the concept of the song, Poor Boy, Rich Girl. See, Palm Beach and West Palm Beach are like two different worlds. So that's how I got to know Burt. And in fact, I was recently inducted into the Artists Hall of Fame in Florida, and he drove over from Jupiter to Lauderdale on the other coast to present me with the award. Poor thing, and he was in bad shape. But I got the award, and we were interviewed for television on that thing. But Burt and I have always been kind of close, you know. One day he said, Bertie, you're the best songwriter that came out of Florida. And that meant a lot to me for him to say that. Sweet man, good guy. And I went to his funeral that was held at a church in Fort Lauderdale, I believe, as I remember correctly. Sally Field, they said she didn't show, but come to find out, after the celebration of life, she sneaked in the back door of the church and kind of hid out. Interesting stuff, but Burt was always close to me.
Amazing. We're talking with multi-platinum recording artist Bertie Higgins, who's on the program. And you mentioned, Bertie, you were inducted to the Florida Music Hall of Fame, Lifetime Achievement Award. That was in about 2016, I believe. And along with also legendary artists Jimmy Buffett, Julio Iglesias, who I heard you say once has the greatest voice, Julio Iglesias.
Yeah, but it was neat because also on that list is Ernest Hemingway, Tennessee Williams. I mean, it's an amazing. So they put a brass plaque on the wall of the rotunda in Tallahassee from the state of Florida. But, you know, in that period of time, I was also knighted, and I received an honorary PhD from Hanover University in Germany. And I got a lot of gold and platinum on the wall. We just bought a home here in Tarpon Springs, and the walls are covered with everything over the years. I mean, it's crazy. My wife goes, well, where am I? I says, honey, you were the inspiration for the majority of this, so take it easy.
Yeah, and also Tom Petty, I believe, was on that list of inductees along with Bertie Higgins as well, Tom Petty.
I've had an interesting 2 or 3 years with awards and all kinds of things. I don't know why, but people love the music. That's all it can be. And I try to be a nice guy to everyone I meet, you know, because you never know where things are going. You know, something's liable to pop up. Like the city of Tarpon Springs gave me the key to the city. And they also gave my mother an award when she turned 100. She probably used it as a doorstop, but bless her heart. She lived to be 104.
Wow, really? That's amazing.
Yeah, it's amazing. So I guess I have my mother's DNA.
Yeah, you got good genes.
Spring chicken, huh?
You got good genes.
Yeah, and they aren't Levi's either. I'm kidding, man.
You know, Bertie, and also, I mean, you were a mega star internationally. I mean, you must have been, when you go to Japan and China, I mean, you must be treated like a god.
Yeah, it's an amazing thing. Like Beijing, I'm kind of an alley cat. I like to go down to back alleys and stuff of a city like Beijing, which is huge. And every other shop seems to have Casablanca dribbling out the front door. It's an amazing thing. I did the first international film festival, me and Arnold Schwarzenegger in Beijing. And I put my arm around him. He leaned down and says, "Now, Bertie, don't get..." No, he said, "Don't get emotional with me." But he was a great guy, too.
And you know, Bertie, many people may not realize this, but before being a star vocalist, you were a drummer, right?
Yeah, I was Tommy Roe's drummer, Sheila, Dizzy, all of those hits. And we toured England. It was a Brian Epstein tour way back. I was only 19, and I would just tear the drums up. But then I finally decided, you can't write songs with the drums. So that's when I picked up my first Martin guitar and started banging out songs. In fact, my son Julian, who's a film director in L.A., started digging through my past and found these old songs. And actually, I'm going to put a couple of them on the new album because it's pretty good writing. You just never know where things are going, man. So right now, I'm in this new house we bought in Tarpon Springs. I wanted to get money out of the bank. I'm not sure about the banks right now. It frightened me, so I paid cash for the house and got a lot of cash out of the savings.
And Bertie, I realized this because I remember Nancy Wilson, and I wanted to ask you, recorded a version of your song Casablanca. Were you content with her version of Casablanca?
Yeah, I thought it was a whole different feel. It was almost a jazz, but it was great. Very famous keyboard player. He's all over YouTube. Did a version of it on the piano. A lot of people have recorded the song and covered it. Problem is, China doesn't pay royalties. I'm going, wait a minute, we have a monster song, and they're not sending any royalties. Well, I kind of blame that on one of our ex-presidents who gave them first trade status. But he did not include in that gift that he gave them to honor our patents and copyrights. So if you go through China, you see stuff that's probably exactly the same stuff you see in Dillard's or major upscale chain. But, the Chinese people are wonderful. The government's pretty screwed up. Not quite as screwed up as Biden, but they're pretty screwed up. But the people are just wonderful.
But, they're big fans of yours. And, Pirates and Poets, I mean, that's another song that's really underrated.
Yeah, I mean, you just got to be careful what you write because you never know who's going to end up going crazy over it. But right now I'm working on my 28th album, as I said, and I'm going to put a couple of these old cuts from years ago that I kind of like the songs. I thought they were as good at writing as I've been doing lately, I think.
And we got to mention your website. The website is bertiehiggins.com, and I see, it's a great website, and you have a lot of memorabilia as well. Can the fans listening purchase some of your items on your website?
Well, yeah. What I did, the first memorabilia I did is I did copies of the original yellow legal pad scratching out the lyrics to Key Largo. A lot of marks, cross-throughs and stuff. So I offer that along with the CD it came off of, and I will autograph that sheet because it's amazing. In fact, I've got it pretty well secured in storage. I just want to be careful that I keep that because it all had to start somewhere. In fact, I was living in a little apartment in Atlanta, and it was pouring rain and freezing. And I had no furniture in the house, and I had an old quilt my mother made for me, and I was naked sitting on the floor with a six-pack of beer and a pack of Marlboro cigarettes. And I forgot I was no longer broke because ASCAP, the American Society of Composers, Authors, and Publishers, had given me a $100,000 advance, and that check was in my back pocket. And I finally realized, hey, man, you're no longer poor. So I went shopping that day and bought a lot of neat things. I bought a new car. Went over and bought an entire new wardrobe, moved out of that funky little apartment, got myself a decent townhouse. So it took a while to hit me in the head. that I was no longer a poor man. It was funny stuff, man.
And Bertie, that verse, we had it all just like Bogie and Bacall. I mean, that's one of the most iconic verse in music history. Can you just touch a little bit about how that came about again, just for the audience that's, wondering, how is that song put together?
Well, normally I'll come up with a title. That's first. Well, my girlfriend at the time was now my wife. We spent a lot of time at Key Largo. My father used to take us down there in this summer vacation, and we'd go after crawfish, the Florida lobsters. And I fell in love with that area of the world. In fact, I had a bar there for a while. And Tiny Tim used to hang out there. Gary Busey used to hang out in that bar. Funny stuff. I mean, and then Bev and I split up for a while, and I was brokenhearted. And I said, well, I've got to write something for her. And that's how Key Largo came to pass. And when we were split up, she was living in a separate apartment in Atlanta, and I wanted to take her to lunch. I said, okay, B, I'm going to come get you tomorrow for lunch. She said, okay, that's fine. But I'd set a deal up with WWID Gainesville, Georgia, the only radio station in the world that was playing Key Largo. And I made an arrangement with the program director to go in and play it for me at noon the next day. So I go pick her up, and, WWID, if you held your mouth just right and pointed your car in the right direction, would lead over in Atlanta. And that kind of pushed the big Atlanta stations on the song. But I'm sitting there, and at noon, here comes Key Largo. So we sat there and listened to it, and she said, you write that? And I said, yes. I said, I wrote it for you. She says, that's wonderful. But, you're singing flat on the last verse. And I went, oh, no. There goes the romance, right? So I went back in the studio, and we cut that last verse. So I can tell when it's on the radio if it's the single or the album version. Funny stuff.
Well, we got a little cut of that legendary tune right here on KMET Radio. Let's hear it right now. Key Largo.
Wrapped around each other, trying so hard to stay warm. That first cold winter together, lying in each other's arms, watching those old movies, falling in love so desperately. Honey, I was your hero, and you were my leading lady. We had it all, just like Bogie and Bacall, starring in our own late show, sailing away to Key Largo. Looking at you, kid. Listen to all the things we did.
There it is, Key Largo, and with us is the one and only Bertie Higgins. Bertie, what a beautiful song.
I need to tell you about. People complain, Here's Looking at You, Kid was not in that movie. Well, if you listen to the lyrics carefully, it's not about Key Largo. It's about old movies, period. So it's about old movies. I think he said that in Casablanca. Funny things, though. I mean, that song just keeps smoking. By the way, I have a new single out right now. It's a country single. It's called The F Word. And people go, what? I said it's called The F Word. Well, the F word is not what you might think. The F word is forever, forevermore. Basically, and it's smoking the charts right now. It's doing very well. But it's a country song. There's pedal steel on it and all that. Um, I did Nashville Now, a show on the Nashville Network, 50 times, and I was not a country artist. But this one time, they took the whole crew and several guest stars down to the Grand Cayman Islands. And every star had to do something away from the set. I think Conway Twitty went shopping for black coral. Ooh, dangerous. And everyone had this. Well, they had me do a 90-foot dive because I was a spearfisherman and a diver on an old sunken freighter off the coast about 5 miles. And it'd been a long time since I had a tank on my back. So I had to go in the swimming pool and reacclimate myself to scuba diving. But I did the dive. And there's a film of me swimming through the rusty wreck of this thing. I got to find that someday. Dodging manta ray eels and barracuda, all kinds of things. And I said, they give this to me, but I did it, and I pulled it off. It turned out well. Funny stuff.
Yeah, I mean, you're a man that wears many hats, and I want to quickly say that, Key Largo, if I remember, VH1 ranked at the 75th greatest one-hit wonders of the 1980s. But again, I mean, you've had a few good, I know it's a one-hit wonder, but you had a couple of, mega hits.
What's funny is that, I don't know if you ever heard of Scott Shannon. Have you as a DJ?
Yeah, sure.
Well, Scott was the morning man here in Tampa Bay. And now he's the morning man on WCBS New York, so he's coming up. But he wouldn't add Key Largo, and I don't know why. I guess he waited till it got in the top 40 or something. But I had a boat. I had a Sea Ray, about a 30-footer, and I took him out on that boat along with another DJ named Cleveland Wheeler on a nice afternoon, and CBS had just sent down one of their directors from New York to shoot my video, which is okay, but I had 2 3/4-inch copies, and I gave one to Scott as a gift. Well, shortly after that, he became one of the first VJs on VH1, and they didn't have a lot of programming, and they played that video 10, 12 times a day, and I'm sure that helped that drive it home in the American ear. But and we're working on finishing up a documentary right now on the origins of rock and roll with Bill Haley and the Comets. And we interviewed Scott up in New York for that. Also went to Germany, where the biggest Bill Haley museum in the world is at, in Munich. And had some meetings up there about that, but it's a cute video. And it's getting ready to pop out there somewhere. We're just polishing it up. In fact, we're in the final edit right now. Because I got tired of people saying, well, I'm the father of rock and roll, godfather, whatever. And I said, no, Bill Haley was the godfather of rock and roll. And if you read about his life, he stumbled into that sound, combination of country and jazz, all kinds of things going to. And the Rock Around the Clock became the theme song of Blackboard Jungle with Glenn. Well, I don't know if you ever seen the movie, but Glenn Ford started as a teacher in that, and they used Rock Around the Clock as a theme song for that movie.
And I got about a minute left, but I want to say, I mean, you just like Bill Haley, you can be coined the father of trop rock, right? That's that term that you invented, trop rock.
Well, Jimmy Buffett recently passed away, and that left a big hole. And I'll probably, I hate to say this, I knew Jimmy real well. He was a good friend of mine. But it'll probably give me more opportunities because he's not around anymore. I don't know. I'm hiring a new manager out of Orlando who used to manage Molly Hatchet. And when Leonard Skinner's plane went down and killed most of the band, he worked Molly Hatchet right into that hole that they left. And now they're doing very well. I don't know. You just never know where things are going to end up. But I woke up the morning Jimmy died, and I was sleeping on my cell phone. My wife said, Bertie, wake up. Jimmy Buffett just died. And I saw it go across the TV screen. And I was saddened, shocked, and amazed because no one saw that coming. He was very, very quiet about his ailment. And I never saw that coming.
Well, Bertie, listen, I really appreciate your time. It was really an honor to have you on.
Well, thanks so much for having me, man. I enjoy talking to you guys. But look for the F word.
We will, and I want to get this in because I promised Sissy, for those who are listening and wish to book Bertie at special events or for upcoming concerts, you can call Sissy at 615-830-7121. That's Sissy at 615 Entertainment Agency. Thanks so much, Bertie, for your time.
Well, God bless you, and thank you for all your listeners for hanging with me all this time. God bless you guys.
Take care. Bertie Higgins. Until next week, happy collecting to all.